Hello and welcome back to the Littlest Sewing Room. Today I'm going to talk you through the weird and wonderful presser feet that can be available for your sewing machines. So these feet you see here, these are all high shank fitting feet, and they're designed for industrial sewing machines such as my 20U, some of the Juki and Brother machines that are out there. I do know a lot of these feet are also available with low shank fittings, which are for domestic sewing machines as well. So if you're anything like me, you do have a tendency to trawl the internet at night, all the, wherever, all the online stores and things. And you spot these weird and wonderful things and you think, what on earth does that do? Now, a few months ago, I was looking for some of these hemming feet because I'd got some very fine fabric that I needed to hem. And the roll fittings that you buy separately that you can screw onto the bed of an industrial sewing machine don't work for the 20U. And I found these amazing feet which have the built-in rolled hem piece, very similar to what you get with the old Singers, but designed for an industrial sewing machine. I was like, ooh, they're good. I'll order some of those and try them. And they are brilliant. I will be showcasing those in this video. But then I also came across this array of weird and wonderful feet. And I thought, well, there's going to be people who, like me, are looking at this and thinking, what on earth does that do? So here we are, having watched a number of small videos that is advertising. I want to see if these feet actually do what the adverts say they do. So first of all, let me talk through what we've got here. So these 3 feet here, they are all different sizes, but these are designed to gather as well as top stitch a straight piece of fabric on the top. So the idea is that you'll have a piece of fabric at the bottom that will go through and it will gather. And then you can overtop it with another piece of fabric that doesn't gather. Yeah, so you're stitching the 2 pieces of fabric together at the same time, rather than doing your gathered fabric and then obviously then stitching again over the top. So we'll see how well that one works. As I say, there's 3 different sizes of this particular foot. This is just a straight up gathering foot. Okay, so that will gather the fabric as you sew, which is also pretty much the same as this one that originally came with my 20U. This foot here is called a rollerball foot. So this is designed for heavier weight fabrics, and it's meant to obviously help the fabric smoothly run underneath the sewing machine as you're feeding your fabric through. How effective this will be, we'll see. I mean, most people would just normally use like a Teflon foot or something like that that slides over the top, but this is a rollerball foot. This one here I find quite curious. So this is for doing the edges around collars and cuffs. So the idea is that your fabric will buff up against the edge of here. So you'll have the edge of your collar or your cuff here, and then it will run underneath. I think this will also be a good one for when you're joining a folded piece of fabric on top of another piece of fabric. So we'll see how that works. This here is designed to be a multi-purpose foot. That's what it's got in the description. So either side of this can be used either if you're using a zigzag stitch, or you can use this to do as a zipper foot. So obviously you'd have your left hand zipper foot or your right hand zipper foot. These are zipper feet as they come as standard. So obviously this side of this foot mimics this style of zipper foot, and the other side mimics this style of zipper foot. And then obviously you've got your normal groove in the middle for straight stitching. Put that one back. I've already covered this one. This is a gathering foot. This came with the machine. These 2 here are cording feet. So your cord will run through the groove at the bottom of the foot. Can you see there? And then obviously it will stitch the cord onto whatever you're sewing. So we'll give those a go. Now this curiosity here, I thought this was a pretty cool idea actually. This is for stitching either elastic or, if you look in the back of like t-shirts and things, they've got that piece of fabric over the seams at the back of the neck, or for sort of sewing that piece of fabric over the back of the neck nice and neatly. So the idea is this will run a piece of fabric or elastic through the top under the foot, and as you sew along it feeds it through. This is a bias foot, quite a narrow bias foot. So rather than folding your bias in advance, you would feed it through here. It would automatically fold and then it will stitch as you go. I don't know how effective this is going to be. If you look here, the welds for this are pretty dang rough. I mean, it's got a clear path through, which is something. So yeah, we may see how effective this one is. I just need to cut a piece of fabric that will fit in there. This is an adjustable edging foot. So the idea is if you're sewing along, you'd put something up to this edge or put something up to that edge as you sew. And if you look closely, these two pieces at the front can be moved as well to bring that gap closer together or further apart. This is classed as an adjustable hemming foot. So, you know, for like jeans or t-shirt sleeves, that sort of thing, you can adjust the width. So you can control, obviously, how neatly it's running along the edge of whatever you're hemming. And it's quite good because it also comes with a nice little screwdriver. This is another type of hemming foot again as well. It's not as adjustable, obviously, as the blue foot, but the idea is you can either run your fabric so it sits and runs along this edge or this edge. These come in a pack of 3. Don't know why. This one, I like the idea of this one. This is called a tank foot. And I think it's pretty cool to look at. But the idea of this is, you know, if you've got to sew over some really thick material or thick seams, yeah, this will just tank over it, run over it. It's got a lot of flexibility in it. So it should run through really thick stuff. The little advertising video to this is quite interesting. So I'll see if we can recreate that and actually get this this foot doing what it says on the tin. Then we've got here, this is an invisible zipper foot. I haven't got a zipper that's suitable for this one at the moment. But the idea is the teeth of the zipper sit in here. And then this runs really closely along the edge of the zip. This looks like a really nice foot for putting zips in, actually, because it will help hold the zip in place while you're stitching it, because zips have a tendency to wriggle a bit sometimes when you're sewing. These, as previously mentioned before, are just your standard zipper feet. So, you know, whether you're putting a zip through on the left or the right, you can change your foot. And then here we've got the 2 fine hemming feet that I purchased originally that led to all this craziness that we've got on this table. So these are really good. They're like the old school hemming feet you get with most Singer sewing machines. So you'd wrap your fabric through and round, and then it feeds through the little tube and under the foot, and it gives you a really nice narrow hem. So the first foot I'm going to try is this one for edging shirt collars and cuffs. So I've taken my fabric, I've lined it up against the edge. There's a little groove that the fold of the fabric sits into nicely here. So I'm just going to, and what should happen is you should get a really nice fine seam along the edge of this fabric. So let's see how it does. Now my machine is not liking this foot at all. Let me see if changing the pressure will help. There we are, now we're cooking with charcoal. So I've just had to adjust my foot pressure a bit, which is fine. Let's see what that looks like. Let's pull that out from underneath. So there you are, that gives you a really nice fine stitch along the edge there, and I can see why that would be perfect for collars and cuffs. It holds the fabric nicely in place once you get it feeding through. So yes, that definitely does what it says on its tin. As I say, I had a few issues setting off. You need quite a bit of pressure on the presser foot for this one. But yes, that gives a really nice finish to the edge of something. So yeah, collars, cuffs, or maybe if you like making straps for something. Yeah, this is a really good foot for that. It saves a lot of hassle, keeps the stitch nice and straight. So let's move on to the next one. So next I'm going to put on this gathering foot. This is just a straight gathering foot. The idea is the fabric runs under here and then starts to rumple underneath, and then the gathers come out at the back. So let's see how this one does. So I've got the fabric underneath. I will say for most of these tests, apart from for things like the tank foot and the roller foot, I am just using sort of a standard cotton fabric that I've got left over from quilting and making things. So let's see how well this gathers. Let's take that out from underneath the machine. I'm not that familiar with gathering feet, to be fair. It's not something I've ever really used before. So that's how that foot gathers. I'm sure with a bit more of a tweak with the settings and everything, that will gather really nicely. Let's just give it another go. I'm not going to hold the back of it this time. I'm just going to let it run through the machine. Lift that up, fish that out, wiggle, wiggle. So yeah, that's the gathering foot. It gives quite a nice gather. I think you would need to tweak some of the settings for this. I've never really used gathering feet for anything that I do, to be fair, but if you're familiar with gathering feet, then yes. Or if you want to have a gather around the top of a skirt or on a top and then you put another piece on over it, then yes, I can see that would work. So we're going to try one of the other gathering feet next. We're going to try this one that you can run a normal piece of fabric through as well as gather underneath, and we'll see if that does what it says on the tin. So what you have to do with this is you put the fabric you want to gather underneath, and then you put the fabric that you don't want to gather in the top. It's a bit fiddly, so we'll put that, slide that into there in a minute. There we go. Bring it to the back. We need to hold that there, right, and put the foot down so it should pin everything in place like so. And then we're going to start sewing and let's see how this does. So it's gathering nicely. Woo! It's a bit hard to control. I'm not being funny. You've got to make sure the top piece is feeding through nicely as well as the back piece for the gather. So there we go, that's that. Let's see what this looks like. Cut that out. So let's unfold it. Actually, that looks pretty good. So there you go. So that gathers the bottom piece and it stitches the top piece to it as well, which is quite good. Like if you're making a top and you want to have a gathered edge to it, or you're doing a dress and you've done the bodice and you want to put the gathered skirt around it. So yeah, that looks pretty neat actually. I'm quite impressed with that. It's not easy to sew with because you've got to make sure that the bottom piece is moving straight and the top piece is staying in the foot like it should. But with a bit of practice, then yes, I can definitely see, you know, the use for that, and I can see where it will save a lot of time as well and a lot of faff for people. So yes, very impressed with that one. Let's see which one we can do next. So next up, I'm going to use this cording foot. The idea is the cord and the fabric runs through underneath. Then obviously it top stitches it and holds it in place. So we get our fabric underneath and then we get our cord. I've got this amazing funky cord that I've bought for an upcycle project. And let's see how well this all stitches together. Let me just feed that thread through the groove. I find that they keep falling out of these little grooves, which is a bit annoying. So yeah, so that's the thread and the cord and the fabric all together. Cording feet always intrigue me. I think it's just because it's something I don't do much of. Ooh, I'm going a bit wonky donkey, hang on. A bit wonky donkey, I'm missing the cord. Yeah. This one again, it's quite difficult because you're managing two different things at once. You've got to make sure your fabric's feeding through nicely as well as your cord. Let's see how that's come out. So yeah, that's stitched quite well. There's a couple of places where it's missed the cord, but I will put that down to user error. I like how that's stitched on. To start off with, it's gathered a bit, but once I got the knack of how to hold the fabric and feed it through along with the cord, you do feel like you need about 10 different hands for this. Yeah, that's stitched on nicely. I think there's another way that you can do it as well, is you kind of fold it over the top and then you can cord along, and then it makes a sort of an edge to it. So let's see how that goes. My machine doesn't like that very much at all. But let's see what that looks like. I'm also using quite a small stitch as well at the moment. And I got the machine set on just below 2. So let's have a look. So yeah, so that would give a better finish to something if you're cording onto a garment, because it kind of just takes away. You see here how you can see the seam of the cord on there. If you're putting this along the edge of a garment or an article, so say furnishings or anything like that, then yeah, you would fold the cord in the middle and then stitch it on, and it would give a nice finish to it. So yeah, so that's your cording foot. You can like that foot. I can have a play with that foot and do a lot with that. So next up, I'm going to show you this roller foot. I do like how the quality of this, it's quite high quality. It's very nicely made. I like, you know, the smooth anodized sort of feature on this. It does have a nice feel to this foot. So it'll be interesting to see how it performs in use. So what I've done is I've got a flat piece of fabric here, and then I've ruffled up and made quite a bulky pile just a bit further back, and we'll see how it can cope with that. And that's actually really good. I'm very impressed with that. It's rolled over that very easily. Let's see if I make it any thicker, how it copes. I know we've got the tank foot to do as well, which works in a very similar way. I don't expect this roller foot to do as much as what the tank foot will, but can you see it's stitched that with ease, no skipping stitches, no issues. So that's pretty dang good, really, because I know one thing this machine will struggle with is if you've got a lot of thickness to a garment, or multiple layers. So I've just made another extra wadgy. Let's see how it goes. I'm struggling a little bit there, but it's still doing it. So that's pretty good. I'm impressed with that. That's really good. Because as you can see, I'll show you in a minute, that's the thickness that I've put through the machine just now. And it stitched that pretty good. Yes, it slowed down a little bit to start with, but it handled that really, really well. So yes, I'm impressed with that roller foot. I can see that being a very useful tool, particularly with this machine. Sometimes if you're hemming jeans and things and going over the seams, it can be a little bit sluggish. So I think the roller foot would really help with that. So the next foot I'm going to look at is quite a simple idea, but I like the idea of it. It's this adjustable hem foot. So the idea is that you can loosen this screw and you can slide the guide up and down, and you can choose obviously how wide you want your hem to be. So it's currently set to this. You can make it narrower, or you can actually make it wider by moving the screw across, and then it will make it wider, and you should get a nice straight stitch, nice straight hem every single time. Because I know sometimes when you're hemming, you know, you can end up going a bit wonky donkey, which is what we don't want when we're hemming clothes. We want it to be nice and straight for our customers if we're doing it for other people, or we like it nice and straight for ourselves. If anyone's like me, I'm pretty pedantic when it comes to hemming. What I currently do is I have a little bit of tape stuck on my presser foot, and I line everything up with that and use it that way. But I can see that this foot could be really, really useful for hemming. because you can get through the hemming quicker because you're not trying to focus on keeping it in a line with a piece of tape on a presser foot. So let's give this one a go. I'm going to leave it set as it's come from the manufacturer to start with. It looks like this particular piece is either molded or has been 3D printed. You can get metal versions of this as well. I did see a metal version of this, but I thought this little plastic one will do just to sort of show what's what. This one acts more like a Teflon foot as well, so everything should run smoother underneath. So that makes that really easy to do, because it just sits on the edge. And you get a beautiful straight hem like that, which is really nice. And then I'm just going to see how easy this is to slacken off and adjust. If it's on the machine, I go slacken that off. And I'm going to push it over a bit. So go. It's quite tight. There we go. I'll push it over to there. Retighten the screw. How long this would last wear-wise, I don't know. You might be better off getting the metal one. I just got this plastic one just so I could showcase it for you guys. So now I've made it that bit narrower. So yeah, again, perfectly straight, and it gives a nice almost twin needle effect when you've done it like that as well, for very simple minor adjustments. That's absolutely brilliant. I'm very happy with that foot. I can definitely see me using this foot on a regular basis in the future when it comes to hemming pants and various things. So yeah, so that's the adjustable hemming foot. As I say, you can make it quite wide or quite narrow depending on what you're doing. So next up, I'm going to show you this foot that can be used for adding elastic or like bias tape onto the backs of things, you know, like necklines and stuff. It's quite interesting. You have to feed whatever you're going to sew through the top here and out the bottom. Okay, it can be a bit tight. You have this screw here so you can adjust the tension on it, which will adjust how fast or slow it feeds through the foot. And it's just got like a little spring-loaded plate there that obviously lifts up with the tension spring for feeding through. So let's get this fitted on to the machine and let's see how well it sews. So the idea for this one is that it feeds everything through as it sews. So you've got to control your bottom one, and your top one hopefully should just do everything automatically. That's it. Now I am stitching elastic onto this because one thing I absolutely hate more than anything in the world is sewing elastic. So I just want to see how well it does with the elastic. I mean, personally, elastic should be better with a zigzag stitch. But let's see how that's done. Let's snip both things. Oops, sorry. Bouncing you around again. So because I've used elastic for this, it has given an elasticated stitch, which I think would actually be really good for maybe making bobbles or waistbands on things, or cuffs and sleeves. So yes, I like that. And then obviously you could just fold your ends together and stitch it like that. But yeah, so if you add elastic to it, it automatically ruffles and it gives an elasticated waist. That would work really well if you're making a dress with an elasticated waist, you know, so as it stitches through, it's giving that bit of spring. Obviously, if you're using a bias tape on the back of a neck, it will sit it smoother. But yes, I'm happy with that. That's a very useful tool for me as well. I'm glad some of these feet are going to be useful. Boing, boing. Excuse me, sorry. Having one of them moments. It's very boingy. And also, because I've stitched that with a straight stitch, because of how it's gathered, it's not actually tearing when I stretch it. Because sometimes if you use straight stitch and elastic, if you're doing it without any attachment help like this, you can get your stitches wrong, and then you pull the elastic and it just snaps all the threads on all the stitches. So you don't want that. So yes, I can certainly see where this will be very useful. Ooh, what next? What next? I'm not going to show you all the feet because some of them most people are already familiar with, such as zipper feet and everything else. If you want me to do something with attaching zippers and zipper feet, drop me a comment below and I can certainly do that, because obviously I've got the invisible zipper foot, but I haven't got any invisible zips at the moment. I've just got your standard zips, but I should imagine this would work with a standard zip as well. Anyway, yeah, so I'll do a separate video on zipper feet if I'm asked. Next up, I'm going to use one of these hemming feet that I bought originally, because these are absolutely amazing feet. I love these feet and I really want to show you what these feet are capable of, and I think they can be a game changer for anyone who's got a sewing machine such as the 20U that, you know, you want to do fine hemming with, but it won't necessarily take the attachments that screw in here. I've got an attachment that screws in here, but it's too long for this machine, even on the shortest setting. I will be using that. I've got a new brother. Once I've got that new brother all sorted out and set up, then I'll be using the attachments with that. But for this machine, having these feet that you can just bob on is an absolute game changer, you know. So let's have a look at this one. Let's get this screwed into place and I'll show you how this works. So I've got the foot on and I've got my fabric fed into it. I'm not being funny. It can be a bit of a pain in the posterior, getting the fabric in place with this foot. But once you do it, the finish it gives is absolutely amazing. So let me just sew this through for you and show you. The main thing is keeping the edge tucked underneath when you're sewing. And then you just let the foot do the rest. So this is the 3/16 rolled hem foot. And as you can see, it gives an absolutely beautiful rolled hem, really nice finish. And the other foot I've got, what size is this one? I can't remember what size this is. Ah, yeah. So this is 1/8. So this gives a 1/8 of a seam. But yeah, really nice feet to use, really easy to use. Like I say, a bit fiddly getting the fabric in to start with, but the quality of the hem and the stitch it gives, particularly if you're doing like really fine fabrics. So I use some very lightweight polyester on this, and it stitched it beautifully. So that's just running it through on some cotton. It gives a good finish, which is great for like bottoms of skirts, t-shirts, anything like that. And I think last but no means least on the crazy presser foot selection, I'm going to have a look at this tank foot. Yes, I have got a few other feet that I haven't showcased. I can always do those in another video if you want, the multi-purpose foot and things like that. I'd need to change the feed dogs out for the multi-purpose foot. But let's have a look at this tank foot. Let's see how thick this can go. So on the demonstration advert for this foot, it got it going through something like 8 or 9 layers of denim. I haven't got 8 or 9 layers of denim for this that's available, but I have got a really thick roll of stabilized felt, and I know this machine under no normal circumstances, no way on earth would it stitch through this without risk of damaging the needle or the machine or anything. So let's give this a go. Let's see how it goes. We'll start at this end because I've got another test for it in a bit. Right, so it's in place. Oh, very nice. Went up and over that very easily. So let's make this a bit thicker. So you know the roll of cotton that I had earlier for the roller foot. I'm now going to add this on top of that felt. So you can see how thick that is. Let's see if it'll stitch that. Again, this is a foot that would be good, you know, for denim seams, that sort of thing. Or if you sew a lot of denim, I should imagine. Oh, yeah, so it doesn't like that. That's a bit too thick for it, mainly because the needle bar is actually hitting everything. Let me fish that out. And just do that. So that was more the machine just going, hey, no, that's too thick. I can't cope with that. I think with the foot, if it wasn't jamming the machine up, I think it probably would have got through that. So I hope you've enjoyed this little video on the weird and wonderful feet that you can get for your sewing machine. As I say, these are all feet for the industrial sewing machine. These are all high shank feet, but I know there are low shank equivalents available out there on the market. If you have any questions, drop me a comment below. You guys take care, and I look forward to seeing you all again soon.
Subscribe. Subscribe. Subscribe.